up into St James's, and my hands, everything, my whole body just lit up. I've got goosebumps all over my skin.
I get those goosebumps. I get those goosebumps every time I'm around you. These are mine, you make everything feel fine. Worry about those comments, I'm way too numb, yeah. It's way too dumb, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time. I need the hype, go that. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Loaded Bag NUFC. We are back again, the full loaded transfer show. It is a never-ending train of Newcastle United news at the moment. Just when we think we get a night off, we're pulled right back in, and we are here again to talk all things Newcastle United. And the boys are here in town. Daz, Chris, how are you on this fine Monday evening? Is it raining today?
No, was a bit earlier, but no. Raining news, raining stories left, right, and centre, and of course we're going to get into all that. But there's some good news as well that someone has finally paid up, and all the figures bandied about then as well. The low balling that was picked up then at the Toon Polls message that got out there, and it got wings and got legs even. And it's been taken as gospel, Frank Chippen style. But all good with me, Pete. All good with me on a Monday. Chris, how are you?
Good, mate. Yeah, busy day in work, but my biggest difficulty today in the last 48 hours has been trying to keep up with everything, because it's all a go. My blue and red mates are firing shots as we speak, funnily enough. It's just been relentless, but I'm sure we're going to get into it. You'll probably all know why. But yeah, do you know what? It's been a nice day for the Monday. It's been a nice day, and yeah, been looking forward to talking to you boys. I just finished watching the France game, France-Belgium. That was an interesting fixture, and then obviously we've got Portugal-Slovenia coming up as well. So yeah, all good, boys. Enjoying the football and talking all things NUFC. But how are you, Pete? You good, mate?
Yeah, not too bad. It's the rain's back again. Just when we thought we were getting the summer, they just pull it away. And bit of cloud, bit of rain, but look, it's all good. I'm not too far away from the summer holidays, so yeah, we're just talking to Daz about it on Countdown. Kind of wish I was in Ireland. I'm not going to lie, with their holidays, we were just talking about it before we went on.
Holidays, yeah, teachers' holidays in Ireland are absolutely crazy. But in comparison to the UK, they're double what they are in the UK. What you're telling me,
really?
Yeah,
wow.
Might need to move.
So that's why he needs to move to Ireland, right? That makes sense. I get it.
Hey, it wasn't even me. It was the missus. When she heard, she was like, "Yeah, I think we need to go over there." But it's all good. It's all good. Yeah, a few shout outs. I say a few. It's picking up. The tunes are picking up. Big up to everyone in the chat. James with the tunes. We've got Learington. I hope you're all well. Our resident spanner, Lisa, with the tunes in there early. Hope you're all well. Connie and Will, big up to yourselves. FX Pro. He's already got questions in the chat. FX Pro. He's not
about them all day.
Yeah,
just mess around.
Anthony, hope you're all well. Great stuff to have your tunes in there. N9. Great to see you as always, John. It's so good. He's put in again, I think. James, Geordie 2 for life. Nathan, he's at what I want. I like that. That's a great name. It's a great name. Colin, Blake, Brilliant stuff. Thank you for all your tunes. We much appreciate it. And Daz, you have touched on something, so we are going to explore it. There has been some breaking news of an agreement last night, and it's all done and dusted tonight. And it is that the Rat Man is out.
Get out.
Now we've released him from his rat trap, and he has scurried his way over to the west or the northwest, shall I say, of Manchester. David Ornstein agreed or announced that the agreement was there between Manchester United and Newcastle for Dan Ashworth, and Newcastle United have confirmed it. They put a statement out of the immediate release of Dan Ashworth, and it looked a little bit like this, as you can see on there, that immediate release. The terms of the agreement will remain confidential between clubs. Newcastle United thanks Dan for his service and wishes him well for the future. A very short statement for a very short-lived tenure at Newcastle United. Let's be honest about that.
For a very short man, according to that Toon Paul's tweet.
That's what I thought you were going to say. I was waiting for that. Yeah, that's what I was waiting for.
He is a very short man as well. Definitely not 5'10". But anyway, we'll talk about that.
Yeah, you're definitely not 5'10", Pete.
I am. I'm not having it. Not having it. The people watching, I am not having it. I am 5'10". Anyway, Dan Ashworth. Let's move on very quickly. What you thought?
It's small radiators. Go on, carry on. This is meant to be a quick show.
What have we started? Anyway, Dan Ashworth talked to his boys. Daz, Chris, it's done. He's gone to Man United. We don't know the fee as of yet. However, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are, I finally get to use that DuckTales poster. I've had that there for months and months. DuckTales, woohoo! You see the cartoon, you have to catch it.
Love it.
From our youth. But absolutely delighted he's gone now. I didn't want him to go in the first place, but then once he made his mind up, he wanted to go. Glad we got our compensation, and looks like we got somewhere near what we wanted anyway. It mightn't have been the full 20 million, but we came to some deal. And the way it played out as well, I heard 12.5 million earlier on in the day. But it's hard to know, and it's not disclosed. So we might know for a while, or we probably wouldn't know at some stage. But the way they did it seems like they did it as well. That they weren't going to do us a favor before the PSR deadline of yesterday as well. But immediately when it's after, because it suits them, they're willing to do the deal, and they get access to his information now that he knows our most of our plans anyway, what are up to when he left. So he'll bring that with him. So I'd like us now to start acting quick, and we have already started acting quick on some fronts today, but we'll even get into our main targets maybe pretty soon as well. So on the Dan Ashworth, glad he's gone. Let him do whatever he wants at Man United. They're welcome to him now at this stage. We move forward into this summer, and then bringing in our own person to fill the void as well, and to continue whatever he started.
Mm. Yeah, definitely well put there, Daz. Chris, what are you adding to this? What were your initial thoughts, feelings when you heard that it broke and it was done, and there was an immediate release? So he is now working for Manchester United.
Yeah, I'll be honest, mate. I was just glad it was all resolved. That was my overarching feeling. I'm just glad that it's all been resolved. We've all got our opinions of Dan Ashworth, and I think the way he's conducted himself speaks for itself. He's clearly not a man with much integrity, is what I'd say. Certainly based off what we've heard, what we've seen. But I'm kind of glad that we've drawn a line under it, because it was unsavoury. It was no good for Man United. It was no good for Newcastle United. And ultimately, it was no good for him. So I think the fact that we've come to a conclusion, and the fact that we haven't been robbed by, getting rid of him for 2 million, which is what allegedly Man United offers, which is just derisory. That's just terrible. So if the rumours are true and it's anywhere north of 6 million, I'm reasonably happy, because that's what we paid for him to release him from his Brighton contract. So if we've got at least that maybe more. I'm happy with that. Move on. Next, bring the next director in, and yeah, we'll forget all about it. That's the way I'm looking at it. I want to concentrate on Newcastle United and the pitch, and I don't want to be thinking about Dan Ashworth anymore. I think he's burnt his bridges, and good luck to him. I think he's going to need it in that job. I'll be honest.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I'm the same. Like I'd actually got a little bit bored of the saga. I'd actually at times I forgot that he was still registered to Newcastle United in some way, shape, or form, and it had just gone on for too long. And yeah, it was time to just wrap it up. The rumours about when the agreement has come about. What do you think, boys? I'm going to put this to you about this Dan Ashworth situation. Before we put this to bed, move on from Dan Ashworth, we can delete anything Dan Ashworth related from Loaded Mag and UFC. We don't talk about him.
The pictures.
Including the pictures. Maybe even leave the rap there. Just for old time. When Dan United comes back on the show, we can remind him. Two things, boys, right? And these are the things that have been swirling around with Dan Ashworth at this moment in time. Has the Dan Ashworth kind of seal of approval, agreed compensation come about because Man United have waited until this time to use PSR as a bait to try and get a deal done for Dan Ashworth, or have Newcastle United rushed this through because they needed the money in order for PSR? Okay, there's been kind of opinions on either side of this coin over the course of the day as this is being finalised. Where do you sit? And people in the chat as well, where do you sit with this? Is this something where Man United were just being awkward and waited till PSR was done to then try and broker a deal? Or have Newcastle tried to rush it through because there was this rumours of desperation for money to get it done before Sunday? I don't know where you sit with this, boys.
I believe it's them that waited until PSR and tried to leave it to the last second, trying to so that we'd bite early, that they knew that we'd be in some kind of PSR trouble, that's why they lowballed us for so long. And then as soon as we were over that trouble, bang, they're willing to do the deal because they know well then that we're quite happy to sit and wait out another year if we have to while he's in his garden leave. So they've got nothing to gain by keep it going to July. Let's say that they need to act now. Their leverage is gone. Bang, they're in there straight away to get it done. So that's the way I would see it. I don't see it the other way around because I think we would have offloaded someone else if we needed to get over the line because we'd still with those. I don't think we'd lose our advantage by acting now. Let's say so it's them, not us.
Okay, Chris, where do you stand on this? Are you in agreement with Daz, or do you have a kind of different perspective?
Yeah, as to why it's all been agreed now on the 1st of July. Do you mean? Yeah, no, I agree with Daz. I think Man United have been chancing their arm, and I think as soon as they realised that Newcastle are no longer desperate for the money for PSR, I think they thought, do we want an arbitration? No. So they've chanced their arm in the hope that Newcastle will bite early in order to kind of put that towards the books, put that towards the figures. And as soon as that wasn't a problem for Newcastle anymore, I think they probably thought, you know what, let's just get this wrapped up, let's just get this done. Not to mention the transfer window is open. The second transfer window is open, so they'll want Dan Ashworth in post, I imagine. It's been a long, hard wait and a long slog. And would I have liked it settled earlier? Absolutely. But I'm glad that we stuck it out, and I'm glad that we dug our heels in because obviously it's been worthwhile because Man United have had to meet us somewhere in the middle. If it anywhere has led to belief, we've ended up with a higher figure than what they initially offered us anyway. So yeah, I think that's what it is, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie, boys. I'm kind of torn a little bit. I'm not sure. I'm not sure it was Man United kind of chancing their arm. I don't know. Maybe it's me. Maybe I'm just overthinking things. But I'm not sure if Newcastle United were looking to do a deal in order to raise funds over the course of this weekend just gone. My opinion changed quite a bit from where we were on Friday to the show we did. Sort of, did we do it on Saturday? No, we did Sunday. We did a show on Sunday. Morning. And where I was on Sunday, I've changed from Sunday to where I am now. I'm not quite sure. It could well be that Man United and the thing about it is, I agree with you boys, because you fully expect Man United to do something like that. Jim Ratcliffe, you fully expect him to operate like that, because he's proven that he operates like that since he's come in. But there does seem to be a little bit of desperation in and around what Newcastle have been doing in the last few days, and that's what makes me think, in my mind, that there could have been maybe the other way around, that Newcastle approached them to go, right, let's get that deal done, let's get the money in and use whatever we can for this PSR situation, because this situation is bizarre, boys. I'm not going to lie.
It is.
It's such a weird situation, and like I can't wrap my head around it. And I have to be honest, I do think that the club need to come out and say something. I really do. It's not for us really to say, oh yeah, that you need to come out and say something. But I think I word it differently. I think it's within their best interest to come out and say something for the fans, because I think the fans at this moment in time, us as fans, all of us, we've got nearly 700 people watching live right now. I think we'd all agree that we're a little bit like bamboozled by what's happened over the last 3 or 4 days. And look, there are some positive things, no doubt about it. First and foremost, we knew this was coming about. Lewis Hall, permanent signing at Newcastle United. Great stuff. Future left back of Newcastle United in England. Had a really positive end to the season. There's some good positives that we can talk about. Boys, happy about this. Let's work our way through where we get to this point to have that conversation.
Yeah, no, happy with Lewis Hall. Great video, actually, confirming the signing, but it's not really any news to me anyway. And it was done. It was done a long time ago, and it's just the rubber stamp on it. But yeah, looking forward to officially having him, and hopefully he gets more starts now this season. He even said it in that. I think that it was a difficult season for him, and he's learned more tactically. So it can only stand to us into next season and to him. So best of luck into the future, Lewis Hall.
Yeah, definitely. And your thoughts on Lewis Hall, Daz? Chris, sorry.
Yeah, same as Daz. Really pleased. I think it's a good signing by the club. It had an inevitability about it. But all the same, I am really pleased. I think signing Lewis Hall on a permanent deal will prove to be a good deal for us. I think that he's a great age, very safe to say, and I think he's only going to improve and only going to get better. So yeah, I'm glad he's staying, and it provides a little bit of solidity to the left back position, knowing that we've got Lloyd Kelly, we've got Dan Burn, and we've got Lewis Hall there. I think it's promising. It's good.
Yeah, definitely. And look, let's kind of work again. Let's work our way through it, because obviously we've got Lewis Hall, but we did have 2 players that have now finalised their moves at other clubs. First off, Yacouba Minte has confirmed his move to Brighton. That has gone through 30 million plus is what it's been recorded as from most media outlets. So we had heard from David Ornstein that it was around 33 million. So it looks like that is the potential fee. We also had confirmation that people didn't want, and that was obviously that Elliot Anderson is signed for Nottingham Forest. He has made that move, which has excited quite a lot of Forest fans. I've had a few Forest fans message me, lads that I grew up with that are Forest fans that are excited by this deal. And obviously Newcastle United have confirmed it as well. Obviously, being a Geordie lad, it's hard to see that move happen, but obviously we knew why it was happening. And obviously on the back of that, we picked up a player ourselves. Okay, Odyssey's Vlachodimos.
You've been practicing.
Yeah. I spoke to one of the Forest guys, and he pronounced it in a particular way, and it's Vlachodimos is the pronunciation. But he's signed for his 30-year-old goalkeeper. Multiple Greek international caps. So he comes with a bag of experience and Champions League as well. And of course, we've got a surprise today, and I want to get your thoughts on both of these signings, boys, and what this might mean for Newcastle United. John Ruddy. It was rumored. We did talk about it on the Full Loaded Transfer Show as a kind of slight rumor that was going to happen, and then all of a sudden, bang, it is. And the expiry of his contract at Birmingham means he comes in on a free transfer. Boys, what do you make of that goalkeeping situation? So we've got Vlachodimos coming in, John Ruddy coming in. I think we left this conversation yesterday. We weren't sure where Vlachodimos was going to be, whether he was going to be number 2, number 3. Does this kind of answer these questions now, boys? What are you thinking?
A bit, but I have a question for Chris before I finish.
Yeah, I want to know this.
Yeah. So, Vlachodimos, yes, everybody. I haven't been practicing, but and I'll say it right once. So interesting to see what he can do. It looks like he's going to be in as our number 2 keeper. Once talked about as a 60 million pound keeper, Euro keeper back in the day. But no, look, if you look at YouTube, he looks quality. Everyone looks quality on YouTube, maybe except us. Let's see what he can do. He looks like he's going to be our number 2 keeper, and best of luck to him. 30 years old. John Ruddy, don't rate him at all. Didn't rate him when he was at Norwich. Didn't rate him when he was at Birmingham, and I did watch him the other time. But yeah, he's going to be a keeper that's never going to play for us. I don't think we'll ever see him play in Newcastle jersey. So that's fine. He's our Scott Carson type one, and Mark Gillespie is further down the line. Both of them are training goalkeepers for me. The writing seems to be on the wall for Dubs. It looks like he's probably going to Celtic or somewhere else. Who knows? But yeah, it looks like he is off. That's on keepers. Elliot Anderson, it was sad to see his video, actually. Best of luck to him and all that he does at Forest. I think he'll have a great career at Forest. You never know. He may eventually come back around to us again. Best of luck to him. And Menta, we talked about really yesterday that he's gone, and he's another one that will probably come back and bite us at some stage. But it needs must as it stood. So as I lead into Chris for the same question, I want to put a question that we talked about. Let me line up as well what someone said in the chat. Yes. Chris, what does 2 plus 2 equals?
4.
Oh, what was our chat today?
Oh yeah, you said you put something in the chat about 2 plus 2, didn't you?
2 plus 2, right? Because people were putting 2 and 2 together, and they're saying, right, Ipswich got rid of their keeper, right?
Yes.
And they're saying Pope is an Ipswich fan. I don't know if he is or not, but they're saying he was an Ipswich fan. So that means Pope is going to Ipswich, and it means we're back in for Marma. So 2 plus 2 equals Marma. That's what, and there's plenty of comments in the chat on that kind of topic as well. Pope to Ipswich, Marma to Newcastle. He's not gone away, lads. Even though he's out of the Euros, he's not gone away. So there's still hope there for Marma. Yeah. It's a slight hope, and it's a big conspiracy theory with that one. But let's get your thoughts on the actual signings and departures we've had, Chris.
Yeah, it's an interesting theory. That is an interesting theory. So yeah, on Vlachodimos, I think that's how you say it. I don't know, but yeah, Vlachodimos. I wasn't actually too bothered about that signing. Like, I thought, anybody who's played Champions League football with Benfica, Nottingham Forest signed him last season for 9 million. And he's Greece's first choice goalkeeper. Maybe the fact that I've read Gus Poyet's write up of him, that's it made me feel a bit more content. I don't know, but yeah, I mean, give him a shout is what I'd say. Give him a chance. So I'm reasonably happy with him. I think he's going to come in as a number 2. interesting to see, if the rumours that other people are talking about, in terms of Pope's future and that is interesting. But is he an upgrade on Dubravka? I believe he probably is. I haven't seen much of him, so I can't say for definite. But we were all quite frustrated with Martin Dubravka last season. So I think anyone who comes in who certainly has the credentials and the CV to appear to be better than Martin Dubravka, who knows? Who knows? So yeah, and it'd be interesting to see what the fee is for that. Some people are saying that it's up to 15 million. Others are saying, I think Keith Downey who said it was a small fee. So anything around the 5 million mark, I think it's a good signing. 30 years old. Can't say great age, but for a goalkeeper, it's a pretty decent age, is what I'd say. Because he's got a good few years left in the tank. John Ruddy, yeah, you summed it up really, Daz. I mean, he's not going to get the juices flowing, is he, John Ruddy? Bless him. I watched his interview, and he almost alludes to the fact that he knows he's kind of there as a kind of a warm-up guy, as somebody who to keep spirits up and keep things ticking over in the background. So good luck to him. It's a year contract. It is just another Karius. So yeah, I'm sure he's a big personality and somebody who seems to really want to be here, and I think that's always a big plus. The fact that he's taken the chance with both hands, I don't blame him because he's just been released from Birmingham, so it's probably a big move for him. But that's the kind of person you want in the background, somebody who knows the place but who's glad to be there. So hopefully he'll turn out to be a good squad signing. I may like differ to some people here. I may sound a bit cold or a bit harsh, but for me, I thought the Yankuba. Oh yeah, I thought the Yankuba Minter deal. I was disappointed with that because Yankuba Minter is an unknown quantity. So he's someone that we could look back on and go, damn, shouldn't let him go. I then look at the Elliot Anderson deal, and again, this may sound harsh, but I thought that was brilliant business. I'll be honest. £35 million for Elliot Anderson. Yes, he's a Geordie lad. Yes, he's talented. But you can't knock back that kind of fee, that kind of figure for a player who, let's be honest, boys, we've said this time and time again, he's sixth choice centre mid at the minute. So for me, you kind of have to put your feelings to one side. It would have been great. It would have been great if you'd seen his career out at Newcastle. But would Elliot Anderson ended up in the Sean Longstaff bracket where he was getting played and people were going, oh, we need to get rid of him. He's crap. Oh, I've had enough of him now. And it's like, is he ever going to, is Elliot Anderson going to be a first team top 4 player? I'd say no. Could he get there? Who knows? But I'd rather take the 35 million and let someone else find that out, because for me, I don't think he's ever going to get there. Great lad. Sad to see him go in terms of, the fact he is a Newcastle fan. That meant the world to him. His video, as Daz says, was absolutely brilliant. But I think there's a little bit of sentimentality going on here. I think if that lad was from London, I don't think anyone would give him a backward glance. And I think sometimes in football, you've got to be ruthless. We've spoken about this. And for me, I think it's a good move for him. First team football, wish him the best of luck. But that 35 million, it's good business.
Yeah, I agree. As much as we don't want to lose young quality talent, we've got to think about the money. We were obviously clearly in a very, very difficult situation with PSR, and we had to make a decision. And I think ultimately it was the right decision. Ultimately, we would have loved or preferred someone like Longstaff to go. A year left on his contract, it would have made sense. But you've got to then look at the situation is that Longstaff isn't going to generate that sort of money in a sale with 1 year left on his contract, and they had to make money. A lot of us over the last week were saying, well, why is it not Miggy? Why is it not Longstaff? Well, Miggy is dealing with another situation at this moment in time. He's in Copa America, can't be done as quickly and as easily as other players would have been able to do. Elliot Anderson was there, ready to be done. He was in Nottingham last night doing his medical, signing the deal. Like, it was as easy as that. It would have been a lot more complicated had a Miggy or a Longstaff been able to do that, and it would have been a lot less fee. So therefore, you can understand why they've gone for Elliot Anderson on the back of that. And like you said, Joe Linton and Willock, when fit, start ahead of him. For me, at some point, if Willock and Joe Linton stay at the club for the next 2 years, I think he would have had to go out on loan anyway, because otherwise it would have stunted his growth in his professional growth. He would have needed to go and play regular football. And the one thing I've said to Forest fans that have contacted me and lads that I know, I've said he needs regular football. He needs to play week in, week out. And if he does that for Forest, I think he will do well. But we've got other priorities. We've got other priorities that we need to fill in this summer. And so that was something that we had to take the hit on, unfortunately. So for me, that's kind of where I am with Elliot Anderson. With the two goalkeepers, for me, that ends the goalkeeping discussion, if I'm honest. I don't see Trafford coming in. I don't see Mohamed Ashworth coming in. I think that is your goalkeepers set. Our 4 goalkeepers. People ask the question, why have we got 4 goalkeepers? Well, we had 4 goalkeepers last season. You know, all we're doing is effectively Karius is gone, so Ruddy's come in as number 3, and Dubravka will leave after the Euros. Well, he's finished in the Euros now, thankfully, and so he'll make his move, and Ratchadimos will come in as number 2, with that head of experience, take on that mantle, and Pope will be number 1. I just can't see. I understand the theory around Ipswich, but for me, I think if we're going to sell Pope, we're going to want sort of 20 million for him. And I'm not sure if Ipswich are going to put that sort of money down on a goalkeeper. I just don't know if they will. I don't know if they've got that sort of money, first and foremost. I'm not sure if they're going to have to spread their costs a little bit wider. Are they going to be looking for more cheaper deals, free transfers? I don't know. I'm not quite sure they're going to splurge that serious amount of money, which it will be for them. Let's face it, they've not got the finances of some of the other Premier League clubs. I don't know if they've got that sort of money to put down on a goalkeeper. So for me, if that's the only viable option, I don't see it happening. And so I think that's our goalkeeper situation set. And let's be honest, if Nick Pope stays fit, I'm happy with that. I'm fine with that. I'd have loved Mohamed Ashworth.
If he stays fit,
that if he stays fit, I'm fine with that, because Nick Pope, when fit and regularly playing football, is a good goalkeeper. He proved it the season before last, helping us along the way to get Champions League football. He is more than capable. So for me, not the worst thing in the world, if that is the case. But like I say, things can change very quickly. I just don't think they will at this point in time.
Can I jump in, Pete, just 1 second? It was something you said, and Michael Pomar. Michael, I'm not going. Daz, I'm just going to bob the chat. I'm not going at you particularly, Michael, but it's just something that you said, and I've seen it a lot on X, and it's just to kind of relay the message really to some of the fan base. But Michael Pomar says, "I'd rather us be ruthless with the likes of Gillespie, Longstaff, Miggy, Wilson, Target, and Trips." And I think as Pete's just said, then Michael, like, wouldn't we all? And this is the difficulty. The ownership were pushed to the limit, by all accounts from what we've heard. And sometimes you've got to do deals that you don't necessarily want to do. See, the trouble is, Elliot Anderson 35 million, Yankuba Minter 33 million. Where in that list are we getting those figures from those players? And also having to do it in the space of 48, 72 hours. So, if we were getting rid of Sean Longstaff, that's great. I'd rather lose Sean Longstaff than lose Elliot Anderson if you'd asked me this 48 hours ago. But we're not, as Pete said, we're not getting 35 million for Sean Longstaff. It's just not going to happen. Miggy Almiron, again, we know Miggy's probably Saudi bound. We know that Wilson's probably Saudi bound. And we believe that Trippier may well be Saudi bound. So until that transfer window opened, we were never getting rid of them over the weekend. Then you've got Matt Target. Matt Target's probably going to raise about 5 million. Mark Gillespie will probably leave on a free. So it's all these, and as I say, mate, I'm not going to go directly at you, but I see a lot of people on X or wherever I tend to be, and we say, "Oh, we should have got rid of him instead," or "We should have done this instead." And you think, well, at times we criticise the club, and don't get me wrong, rightfully so, or maybe the ownership, and I'm sure we'll get onto that in a bit. But for stuff like that, I think it's very difficult to criticise the owners or Eddie Howe or whoever, to say, "Oh, you shouldn't have sold him. You should have sold him," when you're working to a deadline and maybe the money's not on the table. That's all I wanted to say on that.
The way it's played out now, and Chris, you actually said this to us in our chat a while back, that does look like they were expecting a bid for Bruno to someone to for the release clause, and then they wouldn't have had to do any perform any other action, and that never happened. Thank God it didn't happen. So we still have Bruno. So plan. That's a plan A they probably didn't want, but they had no control over. Then plan B is, okay, we need to get some players out the door. So it seems like it did start from that the day Bruno was officially not going anywhere, and that's when it all kicked into gear, and it was ramping up right through the week then, and just madness there on the last 2 days or something. So, and I did read it, or I did see, I think it was in the Athletic, that a lot of the players that Michael has listed there were all shopped about come that last day as well as a few more that we didn't want to see going.
If Trippier and Miguel Almiron had left in January, I don't think we just wouldn't have been in this situation, particularly Miguel Almiron. When you consider that a 30 million bid was agreed and he decided not to go, now that's up to him. No one can obviously force him to go. I think he will be. I think more pressure will be put on him this summer, though. I do genuinely believe that. If he'd have gone that 30 million, and then we sold Yankuba Minte, I think people would have looked at it very, very differently, because we would have only had to have made one sale. We've had to force this sale of Elliot Anderson through. And I think that's where people have felt really uncomfortable about it. And the fact that it's all come last minute hasn't been ideal in this situation at all. I do think they expected a Bruno bid, but from what we've reported or what's been reported, that Bruno Guimaraes didn't entertain any interest, even when Arsenal and Man City came calling. So I think there would have been an expectation that he wasn't really keen on moving. But again, it goes back to the planning. They wanted Miguel Almiron to leave in January. They had the deal agreed. They probably didn't expect as big a bid for Yankuba Minte, but I think there was rumours before the season ended that there was consideration that Yankuba Minte could be sold. And to be fair, all of us battered it back. And I think looking at that, they wanted Miggy gone with potential with Trippier in January and Yankuba Minte potentially sold. And that covers it. And that meant that Elliot Anderson stayed. It meant that Bruno stayed. And it would have meant that Isak and Gordon were never under consideration, ever. And that's the thing that annoys me. And we're going to get to that we're going to get to that now. We might as well talk about it now. But at this point, we've got, I think, 200, 300 watching on X at this moment in time. Thank you for coming and tuning in. If you want to come over to YouTube, we're going to carry on this Anthony Gordon conversation. And if you want to have your say on Anthony Gordon and listen to our thoughts on what we think, please come over and switch over to YouTube now. We are going to be cutting the feed in just a second.
And it's very easy to do that, Pete, because under that video that you're watching now on Twitter, there's the link. So you just click on that link, you're brought straight into YouTube. While you're there, hit the like button and subscribe as well. Very, very easy. So we'll keep it going for another 2 minutes, and then we'll cut the stream to give you a chance.
Definitely. Look, with regards to Anthony Gordon, we thought that PSR was done. All the rumours around Liverpool, I'm not going to lie, boys, I thought it was a little bit of smoke and mirrors. I thought it was there to kind of throw the scent out that we were selling Anderson and Minte. We even talked about it yesterday on the show, but it comes out in the morning that actually things have changed and changed potentially in a serious way. And Luke Edwards writes the piece that Anthony Gordon had his head turned by the Liverpool interest as he wanted the move. But Newcastle now insist that he will not leave the club. He's also talked about here with the head turn, because there's a few people coming back in the comments with regards to him. And it says there, I can get why Gordon's head's in a mess. It's his boyhood club, which if people weren't aware, Everton wasn't his boyhood club. Liverpool was, although he came through the academy at Everton. It could go a couple of ways. Knuckle down when he comes back to Newcastle, maybe with a bit of denial that he wanted to leave, although Luke Edwards, from what he's reporting, saying that's not true. Or behave badly, sour his relationship with the fans and try and force his move out. Something that apparently he did at Everton, although he was treated really bad by the fans as well. There's confirmation that he wasn't offered to Liverpool. There was some reports saying that he was offered to Liverpool, mostly coming from the Liverpool side. There was a conversation as Liverpool were interested and Newcastle were in a mess with PSR. No bid was made, and obvious from those conversations that Liverpool wouldn't meet the valuation. Gordon's head is in a mess as he thought he had a chance to join his boyhood club. What do you make of this situation with Anthony Gordon then? What do you make of the situation with Anthony Gordon, and how do you think that will have an impact on Newcastle United and Anthony Gordon moving forward, going into pre-season and into 24-25 season, Dad?
I don't think it'll actually impact him at all. The reason why is that's football. If you are a top level footballer, you're going to be linked to clubs left, right, and centre. I know it's different; it's a boyhood club, but I don't think it impacts him. He knows what to expect from Newcastle. He knows he's loved by Newcastle. He'll slot back in and get pre-season under his belt, and he'd be back firing on all cylinders. I don't think it affects him. Now, play it on as well. It might be wise for him to stay at Newcastle because no one knows what way things are going to go at Liverpool. New manager, new setup. It always doesn't always go great when they bring in a new manager after Klopp going, let's say, or after and Ferguson. They're still trying to fix that mess. Great. So it doesn't always work out. Kenny Dalglish in the past with Liverpool, Graham Souness messed it all up for them. And they were until they got Klopp. Rafa as well. Rafa did well at Liverpool, of course. But so I don't think it'll affect him. He seems he's got his head screwed on, though, especially like in the interview with Gary Neville. And if that's what he ultimately wants to do in the future, so be it. But I think for next season, he's going to be fine with us and try and get us into Champions League. So that's my thoughts on it. Chris, your thoughts?
I just don't know. I'm dead split on it. I'll be honest. There's part of me. I'll tell you. I'll do my brain dump. I'll tell you what's on my mind. So there's part of me that's thinking, nah, he wouldn't want to come back to Liverpool. And the reason I say that is because I'm sure there'll be quite a few Everton fans who'd be quite willing, to give him even more stick. I think, since he's come to Newcastle, he's embedded himself in the area, should I say. He's embedded himself in the area, loves the fans, loves the city, speaks so well about Newcastle and, working under Eddie Howe. I do get the whole boyhood club thing. I do understand it because we've got to look at it from a Newcastle point of view. If we were playing for, an Ipswich or a Wolves or something, and Newcastle come in, obviously your head's going to be turned. I get that. So if his head has been turned by Liverpool, I've got like an angel and a devil on my shoulder, and there's part of me just going, sell him. Tell Liverpool what the price is and sell him. And I suppose I'm a bit annoyed and frustrated as well at myself and also at the situation and the fact that, Craig Hope mentioned at the very start, didn't he? Where at the very start of these rumours that Newcastle had kind of gone, we want Jarell Quansah. And I was thinking, it just doesn't make any sense. I didn't believe that rumour. And then obviously with Luke Edwards coming out and saying that, I don't know. And then Scott Wilson's been reporting on it. And so maybe there is some substance to it. But at the same time, I do struggle. Maybe it's because I'm from Liverpool as well. Maybe it's because I know, if he moved back to Liverpool, it's gonna be tough for him. Yes, he'll be back by his family and stuff like that, but it will be tough for him. Liverpool fans will embrace him, but he will be getting a lot of stick, from Everton fans, and I don't think that's going to go anywhere. There's still a lot of hostility towards Anthony Gordon. My blue mates still give him down the banks, and he plays for us. So imagine if he joins Liverpool, you know. And I think he's got everything he wants here at Newcastle. The fans have really, took to him, and you want to be able to ring him and just go, what's happening? What are you thinking? What are these rumours true? And I think it was Scott Wilson who reported in an article today. I read the article, and it was saying that apparently, what was it? Somebody overheard or somebody saw Trent singing to Anthony Gordon, "He's coming home," and Anthony Gordon's telling him to shush. And it's just like, when you hear stuff like that, I suppose that's where the bitterness comes from. And I'm like, sell him, get rid of him, don't want him, sell him to Liverpool. I don't want him. If that's the case and that's what's being spoken about, but then it's all rumours, isn't it? And then the other side of me is going, yeah, but it's Anthony Gordon. Since he's joined, he's been brilliant, and he's been a massive player for Newcastle. Player of the season, and I don't want him to go. So I feel very, very torn on it. And I don't know whether I'm angry at the situation, whether I'm angry at Gordon, whether I'm angry at the owners, because we're having this fire sale and everything's all up in the air and PSRs everywhere. I don't know. I just feel very disappointed.
Chris, I can fix it for you. I can fix that for you.
He's for every one of us. Stand for every one of us. He's saving the body and every man, every flash.
That's it.
It kind of alludes to what Pete was saying earlier. Like, you said, Pete, that your position's changed over the past 48 hours. I feel like mine has as well, just in general. Like, nothing, I think I put in the group chat to you boys today. For me now, my expectations have just been lowered incredibly. Anything for me now is a bonus, the way I'm looking at it. I'm not coming into this transfer window and thinking, we're going to sign a 60 million winger and a 50 million centre mid and a 50 million striker. I'm just not seeing it like that anymore. I'm just not. Because the last 48, 72 hours have really taken me off my pedestal, should I say. So I'm being very cautious now. And I'm keep getting reminded, from my mates, as I always talk about, you've signed John Ruddy. Oh, you've signed, very uninspiring signing. They're talking about Lloyd Kelly. And don't get me wrong, I'm really happy with Lloyd Kelly. But, when you look at, like, the monetary figure, you start going, are we in for, like, a budget summer here? Are you boys feeling like that, or is it just me?
Mate, I am like, my head's frazzled after this weekend.
Yeah.
I went from waking up Saturday morning going, what the hell is going on here? Like, this is madness. Then thinking very quickly, right, okay, smoke and mirrors, it's all good. Then to go in Sunday morning with you boys, I was like this, yes, we're getting the money in, we're getting the PSR sorted, and now we're going to go to work July the 1st onwards into the window to sign the players that we need, and we're going to kick on from there. Then you're hearing this noise, and you would think that after this point, that the noise would just go away, but it isn't. It's still there. There's still rumours of Gordon being interested in the move to Liverpool. It might come to nothing. I don't know. But the one thing that I'll say to you boys is that when your head's turned, it's never really the same.
No.
And this is the thing. Like, he may well come back to pre-season and knuckle down and work hard. Yeah. But we saw that with Johan Cabaye, and he still wanted to move. Yeah. And when the chance came about, he took the move and went. Now, before this, Anthony Gordon was 150% committed to Newcastle United. He loved this club. He would give everything for this club because of the opportunity that we gave him, the love that we gave him, and the fact that he felt a part of something. He felt that he was wanted. What's happened over the last 3 or 4 days, if that is true, that would knock anybody's mind. Because all of a sudden, you're going from being indispensable to you're being flogged cheaply to cover PSR. How does that affect somebody's mind? Like, we've got to think away from being a Newcastle fan here. If that was you and you're 100% committed to a football club and you love that club and that club is everything to you, which is what it was, and the way he talked about it so passionately, and it's still there, of course it will be. But when you're then all of a sudden potentially being flogged for a cheap fee to cover PSR, you're going, okay, do they really value me? Is this all kind of a load of rubbish? Do they really want me? And then you're thinking, boyhood club, potentially go back to Liverpool. just got a new family, move closer to family. And then you're thinking, I'm sitting there every day with Trent Alexander-Arnold, who plays for Liverpool, Mr. Liverpool, you would say. You're telling me that he's not got an ear in his a voice in his ear every single day? Come on, come to Liverpool. Come on. This is where you're going to fit in. This is where you play. Blah, 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 blah. All the rest of it. And then you're thinking that move's coming. All of a sudden, it gets pulled away. You are going to feel a certain way. Now, he may well, that feeling may well disappear at some point, but he's not going to forget that. And that's the thing that really frustrates me about this whole situation, because it's happened and you can't take that away now. And so for me, Newcastle United as an ownership and as a staff, I've got to do a hell of a lot of work with Anthony Gordon when he comes back to pre-season. One thing I'm really interested and intrigued to see is whether he comes straight back. We know last summer he won the Euros with the under-21s. Boom, straight back into training, wanted to prove a point. Will he do the same this time? Or will he just go, you know what? I'm going to take a break. I'm going to go for an extra 2 or 3 weeks and come back end of July, early August. That'll be an interesting sign, because his mentality beforehand makes me feel that he would naturally come back. He's barely kicked a ball, so he'll be good to go. He'd have been rested, been training, keeping himself topped up. But I think the Anthony Gordon before all of this would have come back. I'm interested to see whether he does that. And I'm not saying that'll be a make or break, but it'll be, for me, a telling sign, because I've seen his mentality and the way he kind of the way he kind of holds himself and carries himself as a professional. But I have to say, just carrying on from this, this PSR situation, I do think, for me, something's not right. Something is not right. And the reason why I say this, boys, is because, and I think I might have it here. So this isn't it, but obviously this has come from The Athletic. Conversation with Liverpool over Gordon came out of desperation. Okay, that's The Athletic putting that out there. Okay, for those that question Luke Edwards, that's come from Chris Roth, and he's mentioned that it was desperation to try and get him to move. Anthony Gordon will know that 110%. He'll know that. And I'm not sure if I've got it. I'll have to have a look at this situation. Where was it? I think I've got it somewhere. No, that's not it. No, okay. I'll find it in just a second. But what it basically says is that we were pretty much around 50 million in deficit of PSR. If that's the case, how have we got to that point? How have we got to that point? It was projected around 20 million, which is fine. Like, one sale could have done that. It's now saying that we needed 2 sales, so we needed Minter and Anderson gone. And there's even rumours that, and this is why I'm unsure about the Ashworth stuff, about whether it was Man United or whether it was Newcastle that did the approaching. Because now there's reports, now Ashworth's gone, that we needed that money from Ashworth to push through for PSR as well. Which is absolutely mad. How have we got, if that is true, we don't know. If we've got to that point, how has that been able to happen? And I'm with you, Chris. I feel exactly the same. The way I'm valuing and the way I'm looking at this window now is very different. Where we're looking at like at least 60 million. I'm thinking that were we actually really in for him? Have we even got the money to get him? Because some of those sales that we've made are going straight in to cover that deficit. That's not necessarily money available. That's to cover a deficit. We've got maybe a little bit of money that we've earned. We're probably going to have to sell more. And there's rumours, and we'll talk about it in a second, of a couple of other players that are probably likely to be out the door. And maybe we're going to use their money to be able to sign the player.
It's a deficit that was at the start of the 3-year cycle. So that 3-year cycle, it went to cover that first third or first year. So now we step forward. These 2 years that are that are already there, and this next one that we have to come will all be part of that, the new 3-year cycle. So I have not lost hope in that this summer is not going to be absolutely mental, and I think we're going to go big. I haven't. I don't believe the events of the last few days will impact that in any way. I think now we're going to go big. I know where you're coming from. You can look at it in multiple different ways, and question marks all over the place. And I guess that's why you were saying, Pete, and I backed you as well, that it'd be nice to have some kind of clarification from the club. It doesn't have to be in detail and go into the finances and technical deals, but just to give us an indication of what's gone down, because a lot has gone down in the last while.
Yeah.
And if we were having press conferences, these kind of questions would be thrown at Eddie. They're not really for him to answer. It's for someone like a Darren Eales or someone else, or one of the owners, to come out and just to give a bit of background. They know at this stage what Newcastle and Newcastle fans like us are like. We'd like to know everything. So it's just to give a bit of clarity on it. But I think, don't lose the faith on that. We're not going to go big this summer. It's because we're in a different. But we might be in a situation as well that we have to sell more players. And the plan is, as we said, Trippier, Wilson, Miggy. Miggy's already on the way out. They're also going to put it into the PSR pot as well. And who knows as well, there could be some changes again down the line on PSR. We know there's anchoring coming after that again. So keep the faith. It's my message.
Just to add in, Daz, and I'm not trying to dampen your your rally cry. I love that. I love it. I do love that. I was just thinking when Pete was talking then about Anthony Gordon, and if you look at it from his point of view. So Pete, you've just mentioned there, his head being turned by Liverpool and stuff like that. You're Anthony Gordon, and you hear rumours. You thought you were untouchable, player of the season, untouchable in the Isaac and Bruno kind of category, and we put him there, but maybe he now feels that the owners don't put him there. He's heard these rumours. Has someone at Liverpool, or his agent said to him, Newcastle were on the phone. Newcastle were asking for Jarrell Quansah, and then Trent's in his ear going, "Oh yeah, look, they were going to get rid of you anyway. You should come," and all these little things, and it just goes back. It just goes back to the thinking I have over it is that. He's away from the club at the moment. He's away from the pressures of Newcastle. He's away with all the England players and stuff like that. Is he looking at it and thinking, I thought like this was real. I thought this was my homecoming. I thought I'd found a place. I'd found where I wanted to be. Newcastle wanted me. I love Newcastle and all that. And then he's now thinking, Chelsea coming in for Isaac, and apparently, Newcastle are talking about Nicholas Jackson. And, I know that was a bit tongue-in-cheek, and we dismissed that, didn't we? We said, load of rubbish now. Yeah. But now all this is coming out, and we saw Anthony Gordon post on Elliot Anderson's thing saying, gutted you gone with a sad face and all that. And is Elliot Anderson thinking, well, bloody hell, if they sell him, a local lad who, is very, very well thought of with the fans and probably the squad, what did he think of me? Am I equally dispensable as well? Is Alexander Isak going to go? Is Bruno going to go? The only reason Bruno didn't go, technically speaking, is the fact that nobody triggered his clause. If someone comes in for Bruno now for 80, 90 million, the people are going to be... It's all this unrest, and this is why the club need to speak. The club need to come out and say something.
Just as part of the debate, right? We call for the club to be ruthless, right? We call for them to be ruthless on Miggy, list all of them, the Dummett, the Richie, blah, blah, blah. But they also have to be ruthless in terms of what is the end goal. The end goal is to make Newcastle successful, to make Newcastle win something. But the way it was landing, selling Gordon would be absolutely ridiculous, shooting yourself in the foot. But it was right if we were deducted those point deductions, our season was a write-off already. We weren't getting Champions League, blah blah blah. So they potentially looked at all options, and that was probably well further down the list of options, the nuclear option. But they have to be ruthless across everything. And I don't know if it was Amanda or Mirabel that pulling the triggers on this one. I think it was Piff that was, let's say, get in there, do whatever it takes to get this sorted. You've had your chance to sort it out before this. Now is the time to close it out. No one knows though what went on.
No, and I don't think we will. I don't think we'll find out exactly what went on. I don't think any of them will share it, but I do think it's in the club's best interest to come out and say something for them, not necessarily just for the fans, but for them to actually just clear it up from their perspective. For me, I do agree. I think a statement signing early on needs to happen, whether it's this week, next week. I do think it is. And look, if I'm them, I'm bringing in somebody that's a close friend of Anthony Gordon, and I'd be bringing in this man. Me personally, what better way to calm Anthony Gordon's fears by bringing in someone that's pretty much his best mate, and bringing him into the club, someone that he knows, someone that he gets on with. As people have just mentioned in the chat, Elliot Anderson and Anthony Gordon were like best mates. Well, let's go and get his other best mate. Let's send his best mate to Forest and bring his other best mate to
Get a new mate.
Yeah, and again, let's look. Footballers are human beings as well. They want to be around people that they get on with and want to be around people that they feel comfortable with. And, like we've said around the situation with Sandro Tonali, bringing in another sort of Italian, and just while we're having this conversation, Juventus apparently now are ready to sell Federico Chiesa for a relatively low price. We don't know what that price is.
Someone else needs a mate.
I sport in Italy. But yeah, and this is it. How do you calm a situation down? Well, bringing in Morgan Gibbs-White, it would be a great way to do that. And I think there's a chance that potentially deal could happen. What you then need to do is have that conversation with Anthony Gordon. You need to make him feel loved, even if it is rumoured as well, potentially a potential new contract, because I didn't realise that he's only got 2 years left on his deal. So after this season, he'll be going into the final year of his contract. So you're then getting into a very, very difficult situation. You do not want an Anthony Gordon who potentially could have another great season going into that last year of his contract. You don't want it. So what you do, you tie him down to a bigger deal. You give him a pay rise. You let him know that he's an invaluable player, that he's loved. Any one of those things could potentially happen. I wouldn't be surprised if both of those things happen. That a player like Morgan Gibbs-White comes in, and secondly, a new contract is given to him either in the summer or at the beginning of the season when he's picking up, fingers crossed, some good form. But what you don't want is a Johan Cabaye situation that he has a great half of a season, and then come January, he's like, yeah, I want out. You don't want that. With a year and a half left on his contract. You do not want that situation, because the transfer fee comes down, and you're not maximizing what you're getting for him. And, his head potentially could be turned by then, at least if he knows he's getting a new contract or he's got someone in there and he's enjoying his football, he's more likely to stay. People are right what they've said. He is a professional. So I don't expect to see it visibly. I don't expect to see him in a huff, grumpy, moping around. I don't expect to see that, because he's not that type of guy. But it's what the stuff behind the scenes is the concern. But going back to the point, the club, I don't know what the club's done to put themselves in this position, but we have been in a very difficult position that nobody expected, not to this extent. And the club need to ensure that they're never in this position again. People have said in the chat, training ground sponsor, training kit sponsor, all this sort of stuff. Where is it? Well, we need to be up in our finances in any way, shape or form to ensure that we don't get into this position again. Because as you boys have just said, Isak, Gordon, Bruno are players that are going to take us to potentially win something. We cannot afford to lose those players. We cannot afford to lose them. So let's wait and see on that.
Should we talk about point us in a different direction to get us out of this Gordon hole we're digging? Miggy's on the move by the looks of it. He's been talking about moving for a long time. But Keith Downey came out with the news today. Keith Downey's active on Sky a lot today as well. So yeah, this one here, where the Saudi Pro League are looking at him, and a number of clubs I think are looking at him, including maybe even the one that he was linked to in January. I think as well. I think there's another. Ben Jacobs' article as well, where the only one that isn't looking at him is Stephen Gerrard's club. It's not looking at him, but there are a few.
Etifac.
Look,
Yeah. What's interesting about that one, Daz, is that Ben Jacobs actually says that the deal's been discussed for around 20 million. So we already know that there's a fee involved, and we also know, boys, that fee is potentially 10 million less than what it was in January, which is frustrating in that way. But do you see him leaving? There are some people that are adamant that he's not leaving. What do you think, Miggy Almiron? Does he have to leave this summer?
I think he has to leave this summer. Yeah. Whether it's the Saudi or not, I don't know. I think if he blocks off the Saudi move, then I think we try and flog him to MLS. And I don't mean that in a bad way. That Miggy was a servant to us. I did absolutely brilliant season the season before. Took him a while to get started with us originally, and then with Rafa leaving as well, it didn't help his cause. Not having the greatest of English either hasn't helped his case. On top of that, but when he goes, we'll wish him the best. But yeah, he needs to move on.
Yeah, no, I agree, Daz. Even if it's not Saudi, even if he turns around and says he doesn't want to go to Saudi, he wants to stay in Europe, you just get the deal done. Deal done. Even if you take a hit and he goes for 10 million, 15 million, you just get the deal done. Because I think, without sounding disrespectful, another season of Miggy Almiron, it's not the answer. It's really not. I think he needs to move on now. As Daz said, good servant to the club. But for where we want to go, we need to move on. You know, if we were to get, say 10 million, that potentially frees up, if you're talking PSR terms, that potentially frees up another 35, 40 million to buy someone else. And for me, you know, that's all day I do that. So yeah, for me, I think Miggy has to move on this summer, whether it's Saudi or anywhere else.
I think the pressure is going to be applied to Miggy when he comes back. If he even comes back after the Copa America, I do think that there will be the fact that Keith Downey's reported it, because let's not forget, boys. We'll put it back on the screen about Miggy to Saudi, and the reason why I say this is because in January, no British journalist or Newcastle journalist wanted to talk about Miggy Almiron moving. It was only really Ben Jacobs that was adamant that was a deal that was agreed and it was happening. So the fact that Keith Downey is reporting this and saying that actually, as an exclusive, they are in talks with the Saudi Pro League, that for me sounds horrible, but it fills me with confidence that this is moving on, that this is moving forward. So for me, I'd be surprised if we get another week or two, because I'm not sure. It doesn't look like Paraguay are going to qualify through the group phases of Copa America. If that's the case, that could potentially mean that deal is accelerated quickly within the next 2, maybe 3 weeks. We could see Miggy Almiron move out, and I think that I genuinely think in order for Newcastle to sign their right winger, that is going to need to happen. Miggy Almiron and a new right winger are literally going to be crossing paths, one on the way out, one on the way in. Are you in the same mindset, boys?
Yeah, I agree with that. But if you think about it as well, if Miggy to a Saudi club in January, if he said no, then no, I definitely don't want to go to Saudi. Why the hell would they all be trying to get him now? So he mustn't have shut down the whole thing. And it's not like we're dealing with clubs that don't speak the same language here, and half the clubs are owned by the same owners. So they'll know the lay of the land on this. So I think they wouldn't waste their time trying to bring Miggy to a club in Saudi if he wasn't biting on it in some fashion. So I think they would end up looking at other options to offload Miggy.
Definitely. And then we've got the striker situation. What's really interesting that's been said recently. So, we had the exclusive from Football Transfers at West Ham were interested in him. We knew that Saudi were interested in Callum Wilson, but what's been interesting today is that it's been reported that as things stand, it looks like Callum Wilson is likely to stay, and that will mean that Dominic Calvert-Lewin doesn't come to Newcastle United the way it stands at this moment in time. So how do you boys feel about the potential? And look, we know this can all change from 1 week to the next. But in your opinions, what are your thoughts at the potential of Callum Wilson staying at Newcastle United and being second striker again to Isak?
I'm sad and disappointed on one hand, but no, and on the other hand, I'm sad and disappointed on DCL. But okay, sad. No, Wilson when he's fit, yes, I would love us to keep him. Wilson when he's not fit for a third, 2/3 of the season, I don't want him. God, that I feel like I've said that before, but I definitely don't want DCL. So better the devil, you know.
Is it a concern for you, Chris, or are you quite happy to keep him for another year? Because we'd been talking about what second striker was coming in. It was like weeks ago. We talked about potentially of someone like Sesko or someone else. It's completely changed now to the point where it looks like he could potentially stay. Good thing, bad thing? Does he need to move on? Where's your head at?
Yeah, it's an interesting one because I think we quite often flip-flop on this subject. If you were to say to me, if you were to fast forward to the 1st of September and you say to me, oh, we've only got Callum Wilson and Alexander Isak as our two strikers, I think it's insanity. I'll be honest, I think it's insanity, and I'd be really frustrated and annoyed. If you said to me that we were keeping Callum Wilson and Alexander Isak and we've got a third striker, I'd be very happy. I would be really happy because Callum Wilson on his day is a fantastic striker. But the trouble is, he doesn't play enough football. He's not readily fit enough to regularly play football, and that's the issue with him. If you could keep Callum Wilson fit for 38 games of the season, he'd get you 15, 20 goals, no problem. He really, really would. But he's never fit for the whole season. And this is the problem. And we cannot have another season like we have previously, where we're sweating on the fitness of Alexander Isak or we're sweating on the fitness of Callum Wilson. What this team has showed us since Eddie Howe's come in is it's a high-pressing, intense team. And you need a fully fit squad in order to carry this out. If we go into the new season with just Callum Wilson and Alexander Isak, and one of them gets injured, all the pressure then gets put on the other one. And then what will happen then is that player will end up breaking down. It's too much. It's too much. You need three strikers. You really, really do. I had reservations even if we were to sell Wilson and bring in a striker to replace him, because you're potentially putting yourself in the same problem. Because, you know, whoever the player is that we bring in, will they be used to Eddie Howe's tactics and Eddie Howe's training? Probably not. Could end up in exactly the same boat. So a far better way of doing it is to have a free striker approach and be able to rotate them all and keep them all fresh, keep them all ready. And if the owners haven't learned from that, or Eddie Howe hasn't learned from that, genuinely, if we go into the start of the new season with just two, I think there'll be a lot of questions asked of Eddie Howe. I really, really do, because we can't go in with just two strikers again. And people saying, "Oh, we've got Anthony Gordon as a third option." It's not really an option. That's like the major backup option as a third striker. I think we need three strikers. I really, really do. And if Callum Wilson was one of those, great. But I want to see someone else alongside Callum Wilson and Alexander Isak.
I'm going to switch the question to Pete, and I'm going to throw another bit of loaded detail at it. Right. Right. First of all, there's all the posts from Wilson looking like he's going out the door. All the suggestive pictures and stuff on Insta. Then I'll cut back to Saturday night, Pete. I'm not going to go into detail, but we were you were given a heads up of what was happening. It happened actually sooner than I thought. And Wilson was one of the names, along with Anderson, that was mentioned. So do you think those tables have turned now? It looked to me, it seems like the writing is still on the wall a bit for Wilson. What's your thoughts?
It's an interesting one. I think Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Wilson was right in the mix to be sold, personally. Like, as we've already established with a number of other players, I think he was right in the mix. And maybe that was why he put his cryptic kind of Instagram post out, because he maybe thought at one point he could well be going because we needed to raise some money. Now that that's happened, I don't know. I'm not quite sure of the situation. I'm a little bit torn. I'm probably 50-50 or maybe 60-40. Let's say probably 60-40 in Wilson leaves, just because, and it's maybe a more of my opinion. I think it's time for him to leave. I love Callum Wilson, but you can't rely on him. And this is the thing, what Chris said, if we want to get the best out of Alexander Isak, we need a fit and firing second striker that can come on in games and take the pressure off him. But most importantly, a second striker that is always available. We cannot afford to have a Callum Wilson that, although he scores good goals and he's a good goal scorer, is going to be missing for 2, 3, 4 months of the season. It doesn't benefit anybody. And at some point, goes back to the point, we have to make a decision. My only question mark about that is Eddie Howe and are Newcastle United worried about making too many changes? Are they worried about losing too many players? That's the only thing in my head, is that we're talking about all these players, Longstaff, Miggy Almiron, Target, all part of the first team. Then you're thinking about Pope. We had that conversation about Pope potentially being sold. Like, when you look at it, that's like 4 or 5 players that we've just mentioned. Like, we're not going to get rid of all those players. We're just not. Like, we'll get rid of a few to kind of sustain money, but some of those players will be sold without the intention of bringing in a replacement. I'm not sure because we're not going to sell all those players. Like, for me, I'm in my mind now Elliot Anderson's gone, Longstaff stays. Whether people like it or not, I do genuinely think he stays at the club. So that's one out the window. I think Miggy Almiron has to leave, and he has to leave because we have to bring in a right winger. Callum Wilson and the striking situation, and we've talked about it before, boys, on the channel. The only way a striker comes in is if one leaves. So Callum Wilson's going to have to leave. We're not going to go and get a third choice striker. I'd love it. I wanted Wilson down as a third choice striker, but it ain't happening. It's just not. And so for me, I'm of the mindset now that Callum Wilson, I still think he might go, and we'll get a striker in, but it's not out the realms of possibility that he could stay at the club. And that's kind of where my head is right now. You ask me later on in the week, could be different, but that's kind of where I am right now.
Yeah. It's always moving, isn't it? Moving parts. Like, we've been asked this question about Callum Wilson now probably 3 or 4 times. And if you've rewind them all back, we've probably all said different things at different times. It's really interesting. And now is probably a bad time to ask the question, because everything just feels a little bit and that's the problem.
But this is football, and this is the thing. Like, you have an opinion 2 months ago, like, your opinion can change because football changes very quickly.
Yeah.
Like, I'll be honest with you, boys. In May, I fully expected Bruno to go in June. I did. I fully expected him. I fully expected that clause.
Never did.
I know you didn't, Daz. I know you didn't. But in my mind, I did. I
keep the faith.
It was going to be activated. And obviously now I'm of the opinion now. I'm like, now that clause is gone, I'm of the opinion now he's staying. He ain't going anywhere. He's with us next season. And now I'm of the opinion that, where's Gordon's head at? I'm thinking as well, and we haven't talked about this, but one of the boys on Geordie's Down South talked about this today, and I think it's a valid point. With that Gordon situation, I don't want to go back to Gordon, but I'll just mention it, is that we've got a £38 million backup there. It's not the worst thing in the world that if he gets sold, that we've got a replacement. It might not be the replacement, but you've got somebody there you spent a lot of money on that's a backup at this moment in time. So losing him wouldn't, maybe that's why Newcastle United were kind of like even talking to Liverpool, because maybe they thought, well, we've got Barnes here to still do the job if Gordon is to leave. And maybe that was part of their thinking. It's a completely different situation with Miggy Almiron, because you've got Murphy. And we know Murphy's very much hit and miss. So you haven't got the same level of replacement there. You're going to have to sign. But I think for our major positions, boys, I think we've got the centre-back situation, which we haven't even touched on. Max Kilman, I don't think we'll probably go back in for him. I think that was a very much a moment in time where we were kind of opportunist with regards to that situation. Malik Tor, I think, is another option. A couple of other options, boys. Antonio Silva was reported in Sport Witness considering the 35 million offer. Whether we get him for that cheap, I'm not quite sure, but it's a player that we've talked about before that. And another one, not linked to Newcastle United, but and he has been linked with Bayern, but Leverkusen willing to sell Jonathan Tah, both really good centre backs.
There's plenty of options out there. I was watching Silva the Euros, and he made one or two mistakes as well. But
mate, he was awful the other night.
Yeah.
He was awful the other night.
It was a completely changed team, though.
Yeah.
He really wasn't great, but the whole team wasn't great. And I think
that's true.
They made too many changes, so there was no coherence there. There was no like kind of chemistry between any of those players. It was like just a bunch of individuals that were just thrown onto the pitch, and that's why you got the result that you got.
Right, let's go to some questions, lads, because we'll get a few of these out of the way. I'm going to go to Michael Palmer because he's talking about replacements for Gordon if he wants to sell. He says Xavi Simons, but he also mentions KK, and that's definitely where I'd be going if Gordon was ever leave. I don't want Gordon to leave though, and I'm quite happy for Gordon to stay for the rest of his career.
Well, Daz would have the money for it.
Yeah, I know. But no. I want to stick with Gordon. But if that time ever came, I'd be doing a show just on KK to try and convince a few more people. Tom Dixon. No, Tom, we're not going for Osman. 120 million or 130 million euro. I saw was his release clause or something. Not happening.
Nice.
Anyone think that's happening?
No.
Mate, we said it before, we'll say it again. Why would we need to go for Victor Osimhen when we already have Alexander Isak? Arguably a better player, all-round better player than Victor Osimhen. Why would we go and spend a huge amount of money in a position where we already have the number one striker? It doesn't make sense to go and get two world-class strikers that are fighting out for one position. We're not Man City. We're not in that position. And even then, it just wouldn't be viable. It just genuinely wouldn't be. So, like, I understand the interest on this Victor Osimhen. It just makes no sense. Like, Victor Osimhen, fine if you're selling Isak. But I'll be honest with you, I'm more than happy with Isak. I wouldn't trade Isak for anyone else in the world. I wouldn't.
I wouldn't.
And on top of that, even if God, I hope this never happens, but if we were to sell Isak, he'd want to be coming into Champions League football. Just stand any chance of trying to get him this way. But let's go to another option, because Joanne Dharma has said this about 10 times in the chat, so we better go to this. Are we in for Jadon Sancho for a good price? She also says that that he's willing to lower his wage demands, and he's also saying that about 40 million. I didn't hear that, but
I think there's a few stumbling blocks there, Johannes. I think the wages is a big problem. So, I mean, obviously, he says he's willing to reduce his wages. I think they're currently about 300 grand a week, so he'd have to half his wages. And also, given our recent dealings with Manchester United, I'm not too sure that deal would end up going through, if I'm honest. But yeah, good player, very good player. And I think he's been a little bit misunderstood at Man United, and I think him and Eric Ten Hag haven't seen eye to eye, and it's not worked out for him. And we've seen what he's done when he's gone back to Dortmund. He probably is one of those players who just needs an arm around the shoulder. And I think, I'm sure he will go on to bigger and better things. But yeah, I don't see us going for Jadon Sancho purely for the reasons I've just said.
I absolutely love Jadon Sancho, but I think he's better suited outside of England. I think he'll play his best football outside of England. There are just some players that are better suited to La Liga or the Bundesliga or Serie A, and I think he's one of those. Chris has already mentioned about the wages. He'll have to cut his wages about 120 grand a week, and he'd still be the highest paid player at the club, which is crazy. And so it doesn't make sense. But ultimately, I don't believe Newcastle will want to ever negotiate with Manchester United again.
Speaking of Manchester United and Ashworth, or Snakesworth, as Fox FX Pro says, question: do you think Snakesworth will target our targets? No. So that's the danger with him being released now.
Well, to be fair, it all depends on. If we go back on the timeline, full load of transfer shows January 2024, there were rumours around that time, mid-January, that he was already out of any sort of transfer discussions. He wasn't part of those meetings. That was before he'd actually been officially put on gardening leave. So he might well go for old targets that we maybe were linked with, going back November 23, December 23, that he was probably in conversations for. I wouldn't be surprised to see if we're going for different targets now. I don't see Man United going for like a Morgan Gibbs-White, which is a long-term target for Newcastle. Like, I don't see them going for a player like that. However, I think Newcastle United and Eddie Howe will have different targets. And let's face it, part of the reasons why they maybe butted heads is probably because they had different opinions on targets that they were going for. So I actually don't think, other than maybe a John Clare Todibo, which I actually don't think Newcastle United are in for him. I don't think he's in that conversation now. I'd love him to come, but I genuinely don't think so. I think Eddie Howe seems to be that type of proud person where he'll make an absolute point. And I think this is part of the Minte conversation as well. I think Eddie Howe will want to rid himself of anything Ashworth related. So I think he would have almost, when Ashworth left, Eddie Howe would have probably gone, let's start from the beginning. Boom. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's other targets out there.
Okay, let's go to this one from Michael Palmer. Now, first, before I bring this one up, everyone and every channel is entitled to their own opinion. But this one says, another YouTube channel is suggesting Piff may have given up, citing the lack of planning leading to the fire sale. No movement in training ground or stadium. Do you guys agree? 100% no. I do not agree that the Piff have given up on the project. No way. Don't believe that. Your thoughts, lads?
I don't agree, but I can see why people are saying that. Because I'll be honest, it doesn't look good. And that's not me trying to be negative in any way. I feel let down. I feel let down by what's gone on in the last 72 hours. Because no matter what way you look at it, we've been a bit of a circus in this period. And I think it's reflected badly on the club. That's why we're asking for the owners to come out, or Darren Eales to come out and say something. And I don't mean say something and explain what's happened and why it's happened. I just mean come out and offer a reassurance. To say that, okay, it's been a difficult period, but we're fine. Going forwards, we've got a plan. We're doing this, we're doing that. I just feel like I do get why another YouTube channel said that, because I can't really disagree with them in terms of them feeling that way. But I agree with you, Daz, in that I don't think that is the case. I don't think PIF have, I don't think PIF have got fed up with the project or anything like that. But it could be. I think it could, if anything, it could actually drive things forward a little bit, and that PIF will probably have seen all of this and gone, hang on a minute, what on earth's going on here? Maybe we see more PIF involvement now, because it won't have reflected well on the club, whether that be, in the UK, in Saudi Arabia, because, we have, to a degree, and maybe I'm over-egging this a little bit, but we have been a little bit of a laughingstock these last 72 hours, and we've had years of that. But since these new owners have come in, it's been like, oh, Newcastle are on the, we're on the front foot. We're always thinking ahead. Us boys have been saying, nah, PSR, nah, we're not in PSR trouble. No way are we in PSR trouble. And then this has happened in the last 72 hours, and people are going, told you were in PSR trouble. And I almost feel, as I say, I feel a little bit despondent, and I feel a little bit let down, because I've been sticking my chest out and the owners have got it under control, everything's fine. And now we hear the Anthony Gordon rumours, Elliot Anderson's gone, Yankuba Minta's gone, who we didn't really want to sell by all accounts. I think it's a good deal for the club, but it would have been nice to see what he's all about. And I now have a bit of worry in that, he hits the ground running at Brighton, and he's this fantastic player. Hopefully that's not the case, and that's nothing against Yankuba Minta, by the way. But I don't want us to sell someone on and then be really good, and maybe it's a bit of an error on our part. But yeah, I just feel maybe again, like Pete's just said, football, things change quickly. Maybe next week I'll be buzzing, I'll be bouncing off the walls when we sign a new right winger for 100 million. But I'm also thinking on the other side, well, maybe we won't. Maybe we are going to keep our powder dry. Maybe we are going to be really careful. And I hope it's not the latter. I hope things aren't as bad as what they seem. But my eyes have been opened a little bit, and I kind of feel that maybe this crest of a wave we've been on, or this journey, or this experience that we've kind of all been sucked into, maybe isn't quite what it seems. And so I'm proceeding with caution, is what I'd say. I'm not expecting anything anymore. I want to be surprised. I want to, believe that going forward we're going to have a good season. We've got fantastic players at the moment to be able to go ahead and have a fantastic season. But I'm not going to bed every night now thinking, oh, I wonder which £80 million player we're going to sign next. I'm just not going in with that attitude anymore, because all of this is kind of it's brought me down to reality, if you like.
Wow, Chris is broken. Pete, do you want to answer this one? Because I'm going to go with one more question at the end of this.
Yeah, I don't believe PIF have given up. I don't. I think what PIF have realised is that this is going to be a lot more difficult than they anticipated. And I think that's the reality. I think that's a reality that Newcastle United fans in the last year have started to properly see, is that this build, this growth of Newcastle United isn't going to be like we talked about it when the takeover first happened, and we were quite cautiously optimistic. We were like, in 5 years we'll be there and we'll be fighting and blah 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 blah. It's going to be longer. I genuinely think for us to be fighting in the positions where we're actually going toe to toe with an Arsenal or a Man City for the title, I think it could be potentially 7 to 10 years. And I genuinely think that we could surprise teams and have jumps in seasons. But if you're going to sustain a regular year after year title race where you're constantly up there, you need, and it's all stuff in the background, it's not even stuff on the pitch. You need a sustainable, amount of money where you can get regular big sponsorships in, and you have got that set amount of money to put on the table every summer to go, right, we're going to build, we're going to get the best players, we're going to get the top players, they're going to make the difference and take us over the edge to win a major Premier League title or something. We could, however, before that, win a cup. We could win a cup, we could win the FA Cup, we could win the Carabao Cup, and I think we could be massively competitive even next season in doing that. But if we want to be fighting for those top honours Champions League, Premier Leagues on a year-to-year basis, it's going to be a 10-year job, because it's going to take us probably that long to be able to build sustainable financial income that puts us along that path. And it's going to take time. And I think PIF have realised that. Now, that's not PIF's fault. It's not Newcastle United ownership fault. That is what the Premier League have done very, very quickly to stop the rise. That's what they're doing right now. It's what PSR is. Kieran Maguire wrote a great tweet out earlier, and he put some old kind of pieces that he'd wrote from before previously. And he talked about how, profit PSR is, but it's not profitable and it's not sustainable for any club. It's purely something that's put in there to keep every club where they're at, including the top clubs where they're at. And that's basically what it is. And we will have to scratch and claw for every penny that we have to put in to this club to allow it to spend more money. And we're going to have to do that for years and years to come. And this, I think this is, honestly, this is what we've had to suffer this weekend, a clear example of that. I do think we will sign players. I do think we'll have money to spend, purely because I think players will leave the club in addition to Minte, in addition to Anderson. And I do think we'll have a stronger 11 going into the start of next season than we did finish last season. I genuinely believe that. However, to be sustainable and to constantly push, it's going to take time. PIF are in it for the long haul. They wouldn't have fought for 18 months to then just walk away after 3 years. They just wouldn't. They wouldn't do that. And it's mad to think that that would be the case. However, I think there's a realization at the top end of the brass that this is going to be a lot tougher than they anticipated.
And who knows what's around the corner. And I think, line on what you're saying, Pete, bit by bit, claw by claw, we'll get higher and closer. Anchoring, I think, it'll help a small bit as well. It's not anywhere. And who knows what kind of legal challenges will be along the way as well. The goalposts will change. And
can I just add one last thing? European football is essential for Newcastle United. And I'm talking Europa Conference League. People discard it. People sidewind it, said it wasn't important this season. It is. It's absolutely crucial, because it brings in additional funds. It allows us to attract better players. So if we're going for a £40 million player that Tottenham or Villa or Liverpool or somebody else are going for, but we can offer them Europa League, Champions League football, and the other team can't, that's going to get us the deal. And that getting that European football is going to be able to notch our belt a little bit quicker, because we're going to be able to attract the better players like we did Sandro Tonali. If we'd have not got European football, do you think Sandro Tonali would have come to Newcastle? He'd admire the club, but he wouldn't have come to us without Champions League football. Luckily, we've got him this season, and he'll be back fit and firing straight away. But for me, it's essential. European football attracts better players to your club, which means you can grow quicker, which means you can be more competitive.
And the brand as well. But, okay, last question, and then we're finished for the night. And it's, do you lads think it's a matter of time before we make a big name signing before pre-season? I think yes. I think I'm expecting something to happen in the next 2 weeks. The Euros are finishing up. Players are playing that will want to go on holidays as well. So I think Eddie Howe will want the main bones of his squad for pre-season in place. So I think a big signing is coming. I'm going to say in the next 2 weeks. I'm expecting something big. Chris.
Yeah, I do. I think we will. Yeah, I think it'll happen in the next couple of weeks. I think the owners will have taken all of this on board, and they'll probably think, right, we need to change the narrative here, and not just for the likes of Anthony Gordon, Isaac, Bruno, etc., but also for the fan base, just to kind of hopefully make them go, yeah, do you know what, we're going to have a real go of it this season. So yeah, I'm gonna stay positive in that sense and say, yeah, I think we will make a big sign in the next couple of weeks.
100%. I think what's happened this weekend may even accelerate it. I think we'll make at least one signing within the next 2 weeks. Just to add to that, but when are the boys back in pre-season? Because it's normally that July the 1st, but obviously because the season starts later, have they pushed back when it starts? If anyone knows in the chat, I'm not actually quite sure.
When is the Hull game? Is it like the 20th? Hull game is 27th of July.
Yeah, right at the end of July.
So like they're back in training before that. So like you imagine middle of July they're back training. So that's why I'm saying as well.
Maybe next week. Second week of July, maybe.
Soon. And of course, anyone that's at the Euros will have extra time off and stuff like that as well.
So maybe like the rest of the court. Oh, FX Pro said the 15th of July. So that's the day after the Euros final. So
2 weeks today.
So that's why I'm saying 2 weeks. We'll have a big name signing in before then. That's my guess.
Yeah,
I'm usually right.
I think so too.
That'd be good.
Can we just before we close it? Can we predict what position it will be?
Oh,
I'm gonna go centre
right wing. Centre back. Yeah, that's probably the easier. Yeah, centre back. I'll go as well. There's so many names and options there.
Yeah, just purely because I just think they will spend a significant amount of money on the right winger, and I think that might take a bit of time because if we're going to spend more money on that right winger, it might be a little bit more costly, and it might be or take a little bit more negotiation.
I'm gonna go against you both. I'm gonna say right wing. Oh. I think we're gonna go. I think the biggie is gonna come. I think the first big signing will be the biggie, and then I think we'll follow it up with a really good centre half. And I think there could be a surprise somewhere as well. You know, there could be a position that we upgrade on that we weren't expecting. You know, maybe a player becomes available. Yeah, who knows?
Let's go back again to the start.
Who knows? Maybe a really good centre midfielder come available at number 6, and we go. Do you know what? Go and get him. We've freed up a space with Elliot Anderson.
Maybe Morgan Gibbs White. He can play as an 8 or right wing or 10.
Maybe.
All right. Okay. Let's leave it there.
Just before we go, Mark Douglas put a piece out today, and he actually mentions that Newcastle are keen on Morgan Gibbs White. But also, I don't know where these reports are coming from, but a lot of people are throwing Neto out there today. A lot of like in the know accounts, and I've just seen Neto's picture with NUFC hashtags all over from like 9 hours ago, 8 hours ago, 5 hours ago. I don't know where it's come from, but.
I've seen Lee Ryder's picture in Football Manager today.
Yeah,
so there's no other thing. You can put a picture anywhere.
Brilliant.
But that's it. We'll leave it there. Thanks everyone for watching. Thanks for putting up with us as well. Go and watch the rest of the game that's on playing now, and make sure you hit the like button on the way out. We'll be back during the week. No idea when. You decide. Good night, everyone. How'd you like that?
How you like